roads that lead nowhere, buildings that disappear, and trains that arrive without passengers, or so we think. Our story begins with a young man named Ethan. He lived in a bustling city, a place where time seemed to fly by on the wings of progress. But Ethan had always found solace in the city's rhythm, the one constant amidst its chaos: the trains, the rhythmic sound of wheels on the tracks, the dim yellow glow of passing stations. It was comforting. But that night, something felt different. The wind carried a strange chill, and the moon hid its face behind dark clouds, as if nature itself knew something was amiss. Ethan had work to finish, but his mind wandered to an unsettling thought. His elderly neighbor hadn't been seen for days, and worry gnawed at him. Against the advice of reason, he decided to check on her. As he stepped out into the gloom, he saw a train waiting at the station. The last train of the day. It was usually packed, but tonight it was eerily empty. Drawn to its stillness, Ethan boarded. He took his usual seat by the window and watched the city blur past. A few stops later, an old man shuffled onto the train. He walked slowly, leaning heavily on a cane, and sat a few rows ahead of Ethan. The man seemed distant, staring blankly at the floor. As the train entered a long, dark tunnel, the overhead lights flickered. When they steadied, Ethan turned back to the old man. He was gone. Ethan looked around. There was no sign of movement. The train hadn't stopped, and there were no doors near his seat. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Was he imagining things? Had the man simply moved? Trying to shake off the unease, he turned to look out the window. But instead of his reflection, he saw something else, someone else, a pale face staring back at him from the darkness. Ethan spun around. The seat behind him was empty. He was sure of it. But then he felt it. A breath. Not his own. The train's speaker crackled to life. A distorted voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." The train jerked violently, and suddenly the world outside blurred into nothingness. No stations, no streets, just an endless tunnel that never seemed to end. Ethan ran to the nearest door, pressing the emergency stop. Nothing happened. His heart pounded against his ribs, a drumbeat of panic in the deafening silence. Then he noticed something strange. The advertisements on the walls were old, faded. The train's logo, unfamiliar. It wasn't the train he had boarded. Fear turned his legs to lead. What had he gotten onto? A ghost train, a relic of the past hurtling through time and space. He rushed to the conductor's cabin, but the door was locked. He pounded on it, but there was no answer, only the echo of his own despair. Then a whisper, right behind him. "We've been waiting for you, Ethan." His blood ran cold. How did they know his name? He turned around slowly. The train was full now. Rows upon rows of passengers, pale, silent, staring. Their eyes were empty, lifeless. Ethan stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat. The train's speaker crackled again, the voice like nails on a chalkboard. Next stop, home. But Ethan knew he was never going home again. He looked out the window. The tunnel was getting darker, the walls closing in. The train was slowing down. Had he missed his stop? Was he going somewhere worse? The door at the end of the carriage opened. A blinding light spilled out. A voice beckoned, "Come home, Ethan." He hesitated, torn between the fear of the unknown and the faint hope of rescue. But as he stood there, the truth dawned on him. There was no escape. He was trapped in a labyrinth of time, a spectral journey with no end. His screams echoed through the carriage as the spectres closed in, their icy grip a harbinger of his eternal damnation. On the cold steel seat, Ethan slumped, defeated, the last vestiges of hope drained away. His journey had reached its terminus, not of this world, not of time, not of life. And as the spectres enveloped him, he knew he was not just a forgotten passenger. He was a lost soul, condemned to wander the corridors of oblivion. In the grand tapestry of existence, sometimes threads get misplaced, creating a weft of wrongness. Such is the tale of Ethan, the forgotten passenger, a narrative where the destination was never meant to be reached, a journey with no return,